So let me go ahead and introduce our speaker, our teacher for the week, Rabbi Ryan Leszner, who is one of the rabbis here in Toronto at Tikkun Olam congregation, which is a wonderful Reconstructionist congregation that I have been known to haunt from time to time. I'm going to turn things right over to him, but before I do that, let me just invite all of you to join me in the blessing for study. So if you'd like to unmute, you can say this blessing together with me, and then we'll turn things over to Rabbi Leszner. Please join me. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher
העולם
kitshanu b'mitzvotav,
shanu b'mitzvotav
tzivanu la'asok
v'tzivanu
divrei
la'asok
Torah.
v'divrei Torah.
Which means, blessed is the Eternal whose mitzvot make our lives holy and who commands us to immerse, to engage in words of Torah. And actually, let me just say one quick thing, which is that idea of unmuting so that we could say the blessing, so we could hear each other's voices. I picked that up at Tikkun Olam congregation in Toronto. So with that in mind, let me turn things over to Rabbi Ryan Leszner. Ryan, take it away.
Radical in so many ways, including the Zoom cacophony where everyone's everywhere all the time. It's officially the afternoon in Toronto. Good afternoon, everybody. It's such a treat to be gathered here. Thank you, Rabbi Schreifer, for bringing me in and for being able to teach. This is just fun. I love teaching, and I love to get to see and learn from lots of different people. So please, by all means, I'm going to give a brief little understanding of what we're talking about today, and then by all means, this is our time to study and to learn from one another. So this afternoon I am going to give you my spiel. I have a hot take, which is that we've been doing Tikkun Olam wrong for a long time. No one's come through the screen to attack me yet, and so I think we're doing okay, which is good. Let me tell you why. Tikkun Olam. Again, I grew up in Toronto at URJ summer camps in Nifty in the Reform movement, so I know this well. Where we talk about Tikkun Olam, an amazing value, a Jewish value that comes into our world that we need to be able to do in order to live a meaningful Jewish life, right? And normally, what do we do Tikkun Olam with? We have Tikkun Olam days where we go and we make sandwiches for folks who are unhoused. We go and we volunteer time at an elderly care center. We go and we do lots of different things that are really beautiful, amazing things to do. I'm going to argue today, and I'm going to convince all of you, you will all be magically convinced that that's actually not Tikkun Olam, that's something different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a little bit of scaffolding into I'm going to take you into some Mishnaic and Talmudic texts, texts that come from the early turn of the century up until the 12th century or so, with this clarity of what actually is Tikkun Olam. Before we do that, does anybody have any other good examples of Tikkun Olam, of what it means to do good and act well in the world? If there's anybody like to share, you can put up your hand. You can just unmute, whatever you want.
The environment, helping the environment.
Ellen, thank you for saying that. Can you be a little more specific? What does that mean to help the environment?
Well, you might want to clean a park of garbage and dog waste and things like that. It could be on your street, I have a park across the street. I could do that.
Yep, absolutely, right? So acts of, in your own local community, making sure that you go and you pick up dog poop if you see it somewhere on the street. Always wear gloves and be safe with one another. That's an important thing, for sure. Working in a helping field like nursing or social work, absolutely. Big part of Tikkun Olam. Yes, Rabbi, please.
Based on, or going off of what Ellen said, I just wanted to add environmental advocacy, working to make change, lobbying, things like that, that would think about things a little more systemically, but still toward that goal of, repairing the physical world around us.
Perfect. Absolutely. Any other ideas? I'm looking in the chat. Vicky's got things to say. It is a way of life. It is doing good in all ways of life. Being aware. Very good. I like that. Carol, please.
Making donations to organizations that support those causes, both environmental and social.
Beautiful. Yes, money. The thing that talks. Absolutely. Giving tzedakah is definitely deeply connected to Tikkun Olam. So, we have a few ideas of what Tikkun Olam can look like. And now I want to get even more specific because some of you gave some really good answers of what I actually believe and what the text, literally our Jewish text, would say about what Tikkun Olam is. And so, Bruce, I see you pursuing justice. Yes, please, and thank you. Beautiful, beautiful answers. And you're probably like 62% right, for the record. Here we go. So I'm going to share my screen. Give me just a second as I make this all happen in this magical world, and let me teach you a little bit. So I learned all of this from my dear teacher, colleague, and friend, Rabbi Jane Kanarak at the Rabbinical School of Hebrew College in Newton, Massachusetts. It's where I studied for 6 years. I like it a whole lot. This is all, like, Jane put out a book, an article in a book about it. Righteous Indignation, if you want to go a little bit deeper. I am a big fan of Rabbi Kanarak. So what is Tikkun Olam? I will take you through a text in the Mishnah that talks a little bit about what Tikkun Olam could potentially mean and what I believe it actually means. We are not going to get bogged down in the specifics of what this Mishnah is talking about. That is a different conversation for a much longer time. We need a little more time to do that. But what I want you to see is there is a certain situation here, and then there's a clear ending. So here's the situation. The Mishnah relates initially to a husband who wished to render the bill of divorce void and would convene a court elsewhere and render the bill of divorce void in the presence of the court before it had reached his wife. So we're talking about a bill of divorce, how you do that, what's the process about it. Rabban Gamliel instituted that one should not do this for the betterment of the world. And the text to that is Mipnei Tikkun Ha'olam. So for the benefit of the world, we now have a clear translation from the Mishnah, Mipnei Tikkun Ha'olam, for the betterment of the world. Let's hold that there. Okay? Initially, the husband would do this, and then they would change the name and do this, and that's why he did that. Another rabbi comes in, same rabbi, sorry, Rabban Gamliel the elder, instituted that the scribe should write in the bill of divorce that man so-and-so and any other name that he has, and the woman so-and-so and any other name that she has, right, should be put together in order to make this bill of divorce kosher. And the reason for this ordinance was Mipnei Tikkun Ha'olam. So for the betterment of the world. Does anybody have any thoughts about how this is all put together? I can also give you another example. Actually, hold all of your thoughts. I'm going to give you another example. Here we go. A little bit further in the Mishnah Gitin, right? Same section of Mishnah, but different thoughts. So a widow. Now, in a different marriage situation where somebody has died, a widow can collect payment for her marriage contract from the property of orphans only by means of an oath, as opposed to, I don't know, any other kind of way that you want to go and collect your money. The courts refrained from administering an oath to her and she was unable to collect her payment. Again, we're not going to get bogged down in the situation, but I want you to get the scope of what we're talking about here. So Rabban Gamliel the elder, the master apparently, he's in all of these, instituted that she should take for the benefit of the orphans any vow that the orphans wish to administer to her, etc., and all these contracts and marriage filings would be put together. So the witnesses sign their names on the bill of divorce, even though the bill of divorce is valid without their signatures, for the betterment of the world. Mipnei Tikkun Ha'olam. And Hillel instituted a document that prevents the sabbatical year from abrogating, which is my new favorite word, an outstanding debt for the benefit of Tikkun Ha'olam. Mipnei Tikkun Ha'olam. I think I'll stop there. I have other examples, but I think you might get the point. And if you don't, that's okay. I'm happy to share. That's why I'm here. Tell me what you're thinking about Mipnei Tikkun Ha'olam. Does this make sense, given these very specific contexts of bills of divorce and what happens if your partner dies? Either you're all very shy or you're deeply, deeply confused. Robert, you're not shy. Bring it on.
I think these are all Mishnaic peel-pull and jumping around and coming up with this and coming up with that. And instead of being able to address the issue that something involving a woman here and a woman's rights are because she deserves it, they put it off on the benefit of the world. It's just an excuse. It's just a typical
Ah,
rabbinic excuse in a legal setting, instead of being able to say that a woman deserves something for herself.
Robert's coming in with hot takes today. Interesting. And I don't think you're wrong, but you didn't answer the question. And that's okay too. That's totally fine. I don't think you're wrong.
Absolutely.
I don't think you're wrong. But now, based off of this, what is Tikkun Olam? What is Mibnei Tikkun Olam? Bruce, go for it.
My sense is the underlying theme with these examples that you provided us is preserving peace in the world and between people.
Perfect. And Bruce, everything you said is right. And I'm going to push you even just a little bit more. You said for the benefit of peace in the world.
For preserving peace in the
And
world.
preserving peace, which is a beautiful word. I love that. It's about preserving peace. My question to you is whose world?
Well, it's an interesting question because there are multiple characters within the context of these stories. I would say that the world of the world of the people who are involved in the litigation, so to speak, but also the world that's larger than that, and that includes our world, people who are related to those people. It's a kind of like a ripple effect in terms of the peace that emits from the peace between a couple or between a argumentative family. If you preserve that peace, then that peace sort of ripples out into the community and into the world at large.
Bingo,
That's my sense.
Bruce. You got it. Thank you for sharing that. Vicky, I'm noticing in the chat for the betterment of the world to do the right thing. Amazing. Bruce, I'm going to highlight something. I'm going to use different words, but it's exactly what you were talking about, right? This is about preserving peace. But you'll notice this isn't about the world. It's not the global world. All of the entire world should experience this. This is about a very specific case with a very specific person in a very specific time, which means I'm going to argue here that we're not talking globally about like massive, crazy global change. We are talking about local, civil, systemic change to ensure that people within their local communities, right? Because again, this is not just for the entire Jewish world. It gets codified so that it is about and connected to the whole Jewish world. But in this time, it lives in a very specific place with very specific people, right? This Mishnah, right? And this goes back to, oh my goodness, to Robert, right? Like for the betterment of the world to like totally like write it off and to say, it's fine, this is for the world. That's true. But the other piece of it is that we need to remember that the Mishnah, the time of the Mishnah, these are real people with real problems who lived at a real time, which means that we are talking about a very specific civil case. So I want to argue that Tikkun Olam, and then Rabbi, I promise we'll get to you, right? Tikkun Olam is not just about, how do we save and fix the world? How do we do well in the world? How do we care for it, right? I think acts of tzedakah, right? Like giving charity, and whether you give $36 or $36,000, right? That is a beautiful act of tzedakah that could lead to Tikkun Olam, right? To go back to Bruce's language, right? The ripple effect that could happen. It could lead to Tikkun Olam, but I would argue it's not Tikkun Olam. I think Tikkun Olam, according to the Mishnah here, is a very specific act for a very specific benefit that doesn't only benefit individuals, but benefits a system. So we're not just talking about handing a sandwich to someone who is unhoused. We're talking about creating policy, and this is where we get back to Rabbi, right? Policies and systemic orders to ensure that the community of which is living within it is able to have rights, values, and clarity on what they can and cannot do. That is my big argument. And now we've got 15 more minutes to talk. Rabbi, go for it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I wonder, looking at these specific examples, are we talking specifically about a situation where the law is basically on the side of the vulnerable person, but you want to make absolutely sure? I mean, first of all, I want to highlight vulnerable person, right? Because in each of these cases, there's someone, an orphan, a widow, a debtor, right? Someone who's in debt. But then also like the bill of divorce, you don't have to sign it, but we're going to sign it to make absolutely sure. So it's sort of like making sure that we know that there's a responsibility to take care of this person, even though the law is probably on that side. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
100%. Which again ties back, I think, a little bit to what Vicky said, and probably somebody else said it too. But I remember it from Vicky, right? This is about how do we take care of the people to do the right thing, right? Judaism, as best as they can within our laws and in the Mishnah and in the Talmud, it likes to teach how can we ensure that we are taking care of not just everybody, but specifically and intentionally our most vulnerable. And again, we might know this from modern day politics, which I'm not going to get into today, but right, if we take care of our most vulnerable and provide access for them to live their most sacred, beautiful, meaningful, and full life, that only benefits everybody else around, and gives better structure to a larger systemic system. So 100%. Robert, you got your hand up. Go for it.
Yes, and since I started off a little bit argumentative, I guess I will just follow up at this point and ask, how is this text hopeful?
How is this text hopeful? That's a great question. Let me share one more text with you that comes from the same book of Mishnah, but a little bit of a different source. Because again, this is Tikva. I want to leave you with some hope. I don't want to just leave you miserable about everything. So hold on 1 second as I go and I click on my buttons and make sure things happen. Nope. How about this screen? Can you see it now? Are we good? Nope. How about now? Beautiful. So 1 chapter later and a few other verses. All right. There's a few different things that are happening here. So these are the matters that the sages instituted on account of the ways of peace. Ha! We're no longer talking about Mipnei Tikkun Olam. We're talking about, here's the Hebrew right here if you want to look at it. Boop, 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 boop. Mipnei Darchei Shalom, which is being brought in, again, in relationship to Mipnei Tikkun Olam, but also different words, different purpose. And I want to bring it in because this is, I think, where the hope gets to. At least I hope. And if I'm wrong, Robert, you can file a report and let me know that I'm wrong and I screwed this all up. I don't mind. So here are the ways. A priest reads first, and after him a Levite, and after him an Israelite. Clear systems about what sacrificial systems could have looked like back then. Here they are. The sages instituted on the ways of peace, so that people should not quarrel about who is more distinguished than the other in the community. Similarly, the sages enacted that adjoining of courtyards is placed in an old house, I love this, where it had regularly been placed on account of the ways of peace, as will be explained by the Gemara. The sages enacted that the pit that is nearest to the irrigation channel where you get all your water is filled first on account of the ways of peace. And on 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 and on. All of this is for ways of peace. I'll leave it here if you want to keep on reading, but this is where I want to leave you with like this little bit of hope. Where is the hope in this? I firmly and deeply believe, and again, I'll share a little bit about myself, which is that the reason I'm a rabbi, truly, the reason I'm a rabbi is because I moved to California when I was about 25, got an opportunity to work as the director of youth engagement at a synagogue just north of San Francisco. My rabbi there, and I'll give him credit because he deserves all the credit in the world, Rabbi Michael Leszner. He took me into San Quentin prison once a month to be able to meet with men. They're called Congregation Beth Shalom. It's the name of the synagogue inside San Quentin prison. We would come in once a month, right before Shabbat. We'd sing some songs, we'd read poetry, we'd hang out with one another. Beautiful and a meaningful experience. What I learned in those rooms inside prison is that Tikkun Olam, right, is a lot of things to a lot of people. Again, I'm not here to tell you that your beautiful acts of chesed of giving sandwich or $1 to somebody on the street isn't holy. It is deeply, deeply holy and deeply necessary. But I will call it an act of chesed. Or an act of tzedakah, right? An act of chesed, an act of righteousness, an act of kindness, tzedakah, right? Usually we translate it as financial wealth, right? So to give like financial sustainability to people. Tikkun Olam, something I learned in prison, right? It's about the system. It's about how to create systems that allow for everybody to succeed, to allow everybody to have a fair shot, to give space for our most vulnerable, to be able to have a voice, and to be able to wrestle with that. And then again, advocate was another word that we talked about what it doesn't mean to be able to be in a system of Tikkun Olam. What does that mean? It means to advocate, to lobby, to push, I don't always like using the word fight, but here it is, right? Like to actually go and advocate for better systems, better institutions, better structures, so that everyone in our community is taken care of. I think the hope here, whether you want to look at Mipnei Tikkun HaOlam or you want to look at Mipnei Darchei Shalom, all of it leads you on the pathway and has the ripple effect that Bruce was talking about, right? All of it ripples. Any act of goodness and being good in the world will bring that ripple effect. And what I leave the hope with you is, how would you like to do that? I think we need all of them, right? If we had more time, I would be much more like, oh, do you think, what's the best? I'll tell you, it's all of them. Acts of chesed, acts of tzedakah, acts of tikkun olam, all of it is necessary. But what I want to argue here is that tikkun olam is something that's really, really specific. And it doesn't have to be just a catch-all of, oh, we do something good for a person, that means we do something good for the world, which, like, again, the most beautiful and amazing Jewish teaching of, like, if you save a life, you save a world. If you kill a life, you kill a world, right? I don't want to remove that from this essence. Of course, you can do an act of tikkun olam and it can benefit one person, and that one person can then do wonderful things for the world. Each human life is created b'tzelem Elohim. Each human life is its world unto itself. What I'll argue is that there are many ways to bring goodness into the world. Tikkun olam often gets used as a catch-all, and it drives me nutso. I don't like it. I think wonderful acts of chesed are delightful. Go and give sandwiches, go and volunteer at a soup kitchen, go and do beautiful things. These acts of chesed or acts of tzedakah, if you want to donate money, if you're able to, those are beautiful, honorable acts that I would love for everybody to do so much more. Tikkun olam's different. Tikkun Olam is a system within itself. And as we think about, I mean, again, I'm living in Canada. For anybody who's living in the States, for anybody who's living outside of the States in different parts of the world, right? Like, there are systems that exist in our civil government and our larger government. Like, there are things that do not set everybody up to succeed, regardless of where you're currently at right now. And so what my piece of hope is, even in the places where you can feel so distraught, and you can feel like the world is out to get you and that the world is not the way that it should be and that there's so many ways that we can be better and that we need to be better. These texts from the Mishnah give you a clear sense of what you can do. Mipnei Tikkun Olam, advocate for local, civil, small things. We can't fix the world on a broad scale. But what we can do, as Bruce pointed out, right? Start with your own community. Let that ripple out even a little larger to your state. Go a little larger into the country, go a little larger into the world, right? All of it has a ripple effect, and the more good, we need a lot of good to be rippled out into the world. I think the more we do it, the better it'll be. And so to be able to do it with some intention, I think is a beautiful thing. That's what I'm here to teach. I've not been paying attention to the chat, so I'm going to go back to the chat now. Ah, beautiful teachings. Beautiful teachings. Great. Anything else anybody else wants to add with the few minutes that we have left together? I got a thumbs up from Robert, which means I get a positive review, which is always good. I'd be fine with a negative review. I'm happy to do disagreement, but it's always nice when people enjoy.
Well, again, let me say a huge thank you then to Rabbi Ryan Leszner. I just want to reiterate something that I just put in the chat, which is I think I sometimes hear this idea that, religion and politics are separate, right? The rabbi got too political on the bima. The truth is that Judaism demands what we call the political, which is the systemic, right? If you think about the prophets, what the prophets are demanding is not only that we give sandwiches to the poor, which, as you say, is an important Jewish act. The prophets are demanding that we talk to the government about systemic change. The prophets are often talking to the government about systemic change, trying to change the world in those ways. So I think this is a really deeply important point in this particular political moment that we're living in.
Everything's political. It's all political. It's just how forceful do you want to be with your politics? How can we hold space for everybody else to be a part of it? I mean, again, I've been a rabbi for not even 2 years yet. Rabbi and Stryper and I were talking about this before, right? I'm still pretty new to it. But again, the thing that I get from people is like, oh, well, you're getting too political. Everything is political. You just don't like the political that I'm bringing to you. And that's okay. How do we divide and conquer? How do we make sure that we listen to one another, give space for us to show our humanity, while also ensuring that we make sure that we, care for one another, but also advocate for the things that we believe we need to advocate for.
Once again, a huge thank you to Rabbi Ryan Leszner for leaving us with some hope mixed with some responsibility. And I hope we can all go out and think about ways that we can do Tikkun Olam in the sense of trying to systemically change our world for the better and for the best, both of those who are vulnerable and for everyone. So thanks again, Rabbi Leszner, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. Take care, everyone.
Thanks for learning. Good to chat with you all. Take care.